Of your 12,000 games, how many are unplayed?
We don't have to discuss that.
Welcome back to the NerdNest, everybody. I'm your host, Bill Fairchild. Today I'm joined by Carrie Golem. What's up, Carrie?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's everyone?
Russ Crandall's here.
Hey, how's it going?
And, of course, Rich. What's going on, Rich?
Not too much, man. Happy to be here. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and we've got a boatload of topics to talk about today, but I was thinking about a previous episode. It's not too long ago. I don't remember which one it is, but at the very beginning of the episode, each episode I find like some funny clip from the episode, and I put that at the very beginning. And it was Carrie said, "Yeah, I have a 10,000 games, dude," and I thought he said, "I have 10,000 games, kid." Yeah. And like that made me laugh. And then I saw this story over at PC Gamer that said that Steam players are hoarders, essentially. And basically, we just are buying games in order to collect them, not in order to play them. And I thought that takes me back to when the Steam Deck first was announced. And I looked at it as a backlog killer. This is going to be the thing where I can sit on my couch and just chip away at all these games that I have. But for me, the opposite is true. What ended up happening instead is it had a halo effect where I got the Steam Deck and then I just started buying a bunch of Steam games. I just like, oh, that one's on sale, I'll grab that. That one's on sale, I'll grab that. And if I could look at my Steam library over time, I think the number of games that I purchased, or at least the speed at which I purchased games accelerated significantly about 3 years ago when I got my Steam Deck. And I was curious if that's the case for all of you as well. So, Rich, I've got two questions for you. First question, when you saw the Steam Deck, did you think that it was going to be a backlog killer? And then if so, the second question is, has your backlog just gotten bigger since the Steam Deck came out?
Yeah. So I certainly, no doubt, thought it was going to be a backlog killer for sure, right? And for good reason. You get to play games in scenarios where, like, you know, my kids take up the TV, my wife takes up the TV, so I was always playing on a handheld anyway. It was just before the Steam Deck. It happened to be the GPD Win Max, right? And before that, it was the Switch. So for a while now, I had been primarily playing on handhelds. And so this was just a way for me to continue playing when I'm not at my TV or at my monitor. And certainly I thought I was going to be able to get through more of my games. So what really happened was when the Steam Deck came out is, yes, my backlog definitely grew, but I'm not going to blame the Steam Deck for that, although it's probably a big factor. I'm going to blame YouTube for that, right? So like once I started making YouTube videos, I had more of an excuse to buy games, especially as I was like recommending games. So like in almost every video, I'm either recommending games directly or I'm putting in early on, I was putting up trailers of games, a lot of indie games and stuff like that. And for better or for worse, I didn't really feel comfortable making those recommendations unless I had some like playtime with them. And so I was buying up a lot of games. So my backlog grew crazy, but to be fair, I was already someone with a lot of games. So I'm currently like a dozen games shy of 2,000, nowhere near Carrie, right? Like that's just another level, but I have a lot of games and I was buying up games from the beginning. So it's been growing over time.
Russ, you have, well, okay. So Rich has 2,000 games in his library. I have roughly 800. So, you know, I'm the little guy right now. Russ, I'm curious, has the advent of PC handhelds made your backlog grow or shrink? And how many games are currently in your library, if you know?
Yeah, I just looked it up while you were talking. 521 games, so I'm the low guy. But I probably only had maybe 200 when I got my first like handheld. So I have doubled more so, you know. I think the big thing for me is that instead of thinking of my Steam library as just like this hodgepodge place where sometimes I buy games if they're on sale, it started becoming a collection where I was like, okay, like I want to actually get games from other platforms and put them on here, even if I already own it, because I want to see like a cool a library when I scroll through on my Steam catalog. And a lot of that has to do with that Steam Big Picture mode, the Steam OS like library tab. I want to go through alphabetically and see all my games. And I want that to be like a cool experience. And so I've definitely rebought games, sometimes not even with the intention of like, okay, now I'm going to play this game. You know, like I don't put those expectations on myself because I know I probably won't get to all of them, but more along the lines of like, okay, now I have access to that game on here if I want it. And that's a bigger deal to me than being like, oh, now it's time to play that game, if that makes any sense. But I do have one thing I want to bring up, just like a little thing, is that the byline or the sub headline of this article says, you get access to a bunch of drunken sailors who spend money irresponsibly. And at first I took umbrage with that. I'm like, hold on, like I was one of those drunken sailors for, you know, almost 23 years. And then I'm like, well, actually, it's pretty valid. You know, like I'm thinking about like when we would go on like deployments, you know, and we'd pull into a port and we've, you know, haven't been anywhere for a month. So all we've been doing is saving money. And a lot of times before, you know, when I was on deployments, it was before like the craze of online shopping and stuff. So it's like, I can't even spend my money, you know? And so, yeah, we would pull in port and make some dumb money decisions. And
so you got offended as a drunken sailor, not as a Steam
I was
gamer.
like, what does this guy know about this stuff? And then I'm like, oh man, he's right, you know.
Anyway, yeah, when I was in the Army, when I was in airborne school, you get bonus pay and you're there for a couple of months and you get lots and lots of extra money and you can't spend anything because you are basically locked to the base. You don't have a vehicle. You can't go anywhere. So like the money just keeps pouring. You have no bills to pay and the money just keeps pouring in essentially. And then when you get out of airborne school, you like have this huge bank account. You're like, shit, I'm going to buy like a pair of, this is back in the 90s, by the way, a pair of $400 sunglasses, which was a stupid decision, but I bought them because I had that money and I didn't have anything else to spend it on. So yeah, I think that the drunken, you know, sailor or army guy or whatever, it's a pretty apt description for how a lot of people are behaving when it comes to their Steam libraries.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a specific quote in the article. It says the reason Steam makes indies so much money compared to other platforms is that they've built up an audience that's full of super diehard hobbyists. And basically, hobbyists buy stuff not because they actually want to consume it, but because they're collecting it, which is exactly what you were just saying, Russ. And I know that I've bought games that I had on other platforms. Once I started playing more on PC, I started feeling the need to, I want to play all of my games on PC. I want all of my games to exist in one location so I don't have to go over here for this or over there for that. I just want them all to be in one place. Carrie, what's your excuse? 10,000 games, kid.
So 10,000 is just what you guys see, because those numbers, the public numbers, exclude delisted games, and I have it's closer to 12,000 in reality, of like, because they Valve started minusing those plus ones because it became a thing where people started hunting down delisted games. And that was a whole subgenre of collectors. Like that was like the next level for collectors. So that's a side thing. But the reason that I really started buying on Steam to begin with was that I was the 360 was probably my favorite console generation in that space. Like everything that they were doing, I loved everything they're doing. XBLA with like Castle Crashers, and there's so many good $10, $15 XBLA games. And I tended to like indie games a bit more. And in 2009, I started seeing like this, like the summer of arcade kind of sucked. compared to 2008's summer. And 2007 and 2008 Xbox 360 is peak Xbox 360. It's like unreal amount of games coming in and stuff. And 2010, it really started to see, like, you could see the suits started coming in and doing things that were just like cruise control. Let's just milk this thing. And I was just like, what? You guys have nothing. Like, you guys are just, this is when that like meme of like, oh, you just have Halo, Gears, and Forza type of thing just started happening. And I felt that as well. And at the time in 2010, I was just like, well, this direction that they're going kind of sucks. And PC is a thing that I could always upgrade. So why don't I just make PC my main platform? And if there's exclusives that are only on console, I will buy the exclusive on that console. But if anything's third party, I will get on PC. And since 2010, like that really cemented during the I think it was the Christmas sale for Steam in 2010, and they had like the Square Enix pack, pay $50 and get 80 games, and I was like, well, all right.
Like, the old sales were better.
Yeah, the old sales were unreal. So I was just like, well, screw all that stuff. I'll just go into Steam Hardcore. So I started doing that. And then it was like, still whatever. I was still mostly PC, but then they started Steam trading cards, and that system could be gamed like crazy. And that's really what inflated my game count a bunch, because there's a service called Indigala, which is also like a Humble Bundle where they do bundles, but something that people might not be aware of, and you can go on like Steam discussion forums where people do group buys. Indigala has this thing where if you buy like 20 or 40 of a thing, it's even more discounted of a bundle. So you pay this one guy who's skimming, he's like getting bundles for free, but he's coordinating everything. So I'd send him $20, and every few months I would send him another $20, but every Indigala bundle I would be getting. And it wound up that I was like paying like $1.50 or $2 per bundle. And then I would automate farming the cards and then automate selling the cards. And I would make like $2 or $2.50. So I was just like, well, this doesn't take a genius. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just getting free games, and I pay $2 and I get $2.50 in Steam money, and sometimes more if I got a foil. So I was like, yeah, this is easy. I did that for a long time until it started like really going down, and then I was actually spending money. So then I slowed down, but I didn't slow down until after, like, it started slowing down. I was at like 7,000 games, and I was like, I have to at least get it to 9,000. And then, like,
why is there a reason for this? Just because of the meme?
Must.
Just the meme.
Because over 9,000?
Yeah, it's over 9,000, and that was literally the only reason that I kept buying Indie games. And it was like, hey, if anyone could, I could just point to my library. I'd be like, yeah, it's over 9,000. And that's literally it. That was the reason. And then since then, I kind of have slowed down a lot, but it still keeps growing. So in 2016, I had the JPD Win 1, which was already a PC gaming platform that played more indie games than anything, and I actually preferred indie games, and I was like the focus of my channel from like 2011 to 2016. So it kind of like worked hand in hand, but like the Steam Deck for me was not a catalyst insofar as like springboarding more spending. The Steam Deck for me was, at the time, was optics wise for me, was the first good enough PC gaming handheld. It's still a very good PC gaming handheld, but when you really get down to like brass tacks, I think a lot of people have issues with it, because in a lot of people's head, PC gaming is the superior gaming thing, and the Steam Deck doesn't give you that. So perhaps the Steam Deck 2 will get us closer to an all-around one, but it wasn't a catalyst for me to buy more games. It just kind of rolled into what my 2010 decision already was.
Of your 12,000 games, how many are unplayed?
We don't have to discuss that. We don't have to talk about silly things.
Did you guys ever one question. So do you guys remember the Humble Indie bundle, the very first one back in 2010?
Yes.
It had like World of Goo on it and Aquaria and stuff. That was when I learned how to hide games in my library, like, because I didn't want to see them. And this kind of goes back to that collection thing. Was like, I bought these games, and there was one, it was like Lugaru. It was like a rabbit, like indie game.
Yeah.
I didn't like the look of that
one
game.
too, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to see that little rabbit head every time that I go through my library, you know? And so I remember I like learned how to hide it, because for me, it was about that browsing experience. I wanted to be able to go through and be like, yeah, look at my library here, you know? Because I don't have 10,000 games. I got 500, you know? And so I like the idea of like, I just at too many games, I was hanging out with a friend and I let them browse through my Steam library. And I was so proud. I was just like, yeah, look, I got all these Assassin's Creed games, you know, like, look at all these cool games I got, you know, and he was just browsing through. He was like, oh, you got that one. You got that one. And it was just a cool little experience that I just had like all those games at my fingertips. And I think that Steam Cloud Saves really puts it all together for me. You know what I mean? It's the fact that like I can just jump back into that game at any point, not having to worry about some sort of plus subscription with like PlayStation and whatever. And so I really do appreciate that factor as well. And so that's probably why I've been gravitating towards, you know, building this collection on Steam.
So fun fact about the Steam library, that you can hide games, but you can also forcibly remove a game from your library if you so choose. And another thing that you can do, which is absolutely wild to me that I didn't do, because I was in circles of Steam game collectors, especially back in the day in 2015. I still have it in my Steam library. I have the Saints Row 4 press build, which is a separate app ID. And it shows I have Saints Row 4 press build. And I had a game collector, like, he's like, you can just talk to Steam and tell them to transfer that license to me, and I will pay you this X amount of money. And I was just like, that's insane. No, that's a lot of money, though. I didn't know that this was possible, and I'm not going to do it. But yeah, there's like, you can, at least back in, I don't know, a decade ago, that was possible.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you can sell Steam games.
So I still kick my ass about this to this day. Blur was on sale for like $5, and I was like, you know, next Steam sale it might be like $3.75. I'll wait for that, and then it just got delisted, and I never bought it. There's people that have 20 copies, like giftable copies of Blur in their inventory that they'll sell for like $200, $300, and I've considered it.
and that's because people are collecting the games, not playing them.
I do want to actually play it. Like I have it. Like I don't need Steam. I don't need it there. I have the files. I could just play it whenever I want. But I'd rather have it in my library without having to do a whole bunch of hocus pocus in the background, especially for the Steam Deck, to play the game. And it doesn't take a bunch. It's a 360 game, and it's just I really enjoy it as a game, and I miss Criterion and all those that stuff. So yeah, there's a part of me that now that Microsoft owns Activision, that somehow, some way, licensing will spring this back up through the dead somewhere. But we, even when remember that Cruisin' USA, that bug that happened where we can kind of force a game into our library, where I pinged you guys about it. I was like, oh, we can just do this,
right? Yeah.
And I bought Blur. And I was like, sick, I got Blur.
Oh, and then it got yoinked from your library.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, I bought Blur. I bought whatever Virtual Fighter, Virtual Tennis was back. Yeah.
Outrun.
Sick.
Outrun 2006. Yeah.
And just for the audience's sake, this is not something that you can still do. It was something that Gary sent us a message about, and like Rich took advantage of it. I was too lazy to take advantage of it, and obviously Carrie did as well.
Russ did as well. Yeah, Russ
I got Outrun.
Outrun, yeah.
Oh, that's right, Outrun.
Yeah, but I mean, like, totally cool. Good.
I was just going to say, did it get removed from your library too, Russ?
I got it. I bought it. I downloaded it. I put it on my Steam Deck. I played it. And then the next day it was gone. They had removed it. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is awful. It's like, oh man, I would really like to have that.
Yeah. I know. We paid for it. It's not like we were getting it for free. We were like, can we please buy this?
That's the thing. Yeah.
So
I guess I should explain to the audience real quick what was happening. Is basically Carrie found out how you could get to links of games that have been delisted, but you would so you can't buy it anymore. But usually what happens when games are delisted, you can still download them if you had already bought them, and then he found a way to buy them even though you're not supposed to be able to.
Yeah, it was an exploit that lets you force it into your cart, and once it was in your cart, it was trivial to check out. But then, as they said, a couple days later, it was just gone, and we were refunded our purchase.
Yeah, that was that was brutal.
Yeah. The collector hobbyist thing is really interesting, right? So this is the PC Gamer piece is basically just a summary of a blog post from a market analyst. His name is Chris Zukowski, and he's the one that these quotes are coming from, right? And so he references a Japanese term called sundoku, which is like people that pile up a bunch of books, buy books, but don't read them or don't read nearly as many of them. And so, Bill, you were kind of alluding to like how many of those games have you played? And so like apparently the average person has played 50% of their library. And so like in a way, and certainly I'm in the same boat. I've probably played about 50%, probably less. I did not check the number, but I would assume either 50% or less. And so like in a way, the tempo gamer is like a little bit smarter, right? Because they just buy the games they're going to play and don't worry about, you know, what they're not going to play. And so for a lot of us, it's like, oh, we'll get to it someday. And maybe we will, but certainly our buying, at least mine, I'll say, has outpaced what I can reasonably play in my lifetime, right? Like there's no way for me to get to my whole library in my life. So I'm not going to get to it someday. I'll get to some of them someday, but I'm not. And then, you know, more and more games are coming to Steam every year. So even worse, right? In that regard. And so like, what I really, really love about Chris Zukowski's piece is how he sort of like, he compared it to Netflix, right? So like what Netflix is trying to do is convince you that, not just convince you, but trying to fight with all the other media that exists in the world for your attention. That's what they're trying to do to get your money. And what Valve has figured out is a way to not fight for your attention. You're borrowing attention from the future. You're saying, I'll get to it someday, right? So like, it's almost anti-subscription because you don't have to worry about what you're going to play in this next month and make sure that you're going to play this next month. You just believe you'll get to it someday. And so like Valve has kind of solved that problem with this.
Yeah. If you look at, like, I think one of the big problems for my library is Humble Bundle, because I subscribe to Humble Choice, which for people who don't know, full transparency, I'm a Humble partner as well. But on Humble Choice, it's not like the other subscription services. When you cancel your Humble Choice, you get to keep all of the games that you got through Humble Choice. And in addition to that, you can like say, well, I don't like the games that are coming this month and just pause my membership for the month. And then you just don't get charged that month. But the thing is, almost every month, for I think it's $14 or something. I think they just raised the price from 12 to 14 or something like that. But almost every month, there's at least one game in Humble Choice that I'm interested in. And there's a bunch of stuff that I had never heard of and don't really care about. But that one, I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine. I'll add it to my library. And so I add it to my library. And then I also add these other 4 or 5 games to my library that I never play. I've never even looked at some of their, like some of their trailers or something. Back a while ago, I used to just give those extra copies away, but then I would put them in a spreadsheet and then I would run giveaways on my Discord channel for the games that I didn't want. And then people started sending me codes to give away as well. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I got one of my Discord people to take care of it. But then Humble said you only get this much. I don't know how much time it is, but it's like you get this much time to claim your game. And so I don't know that spreadsheet. I don't know if those games are still useful anymore. I have no idea. But like that Humble Choice subscription has severely inflated my library and added in a bunch of games that I otherwise probably wouldn't have picked up. Yeah. And then when you combine that with Steam family sharing, my son has games and I have games. And so sometimes I'll just claim those Humble games because I'm like, well, maybe he'll want that, you know, because he can play any game that I have. Just the other day, he wanted to play it. Like he ended up buying a copy of Dead by Daylight because I owned a copy of Dead by Daylight and he wanted to get DLC for Dead by Daylight, but he didn't own Dead by Daylight, even though he has 50 some odd hours playing the game. And so he's like, well, I guess I got to bite the bullet and buy the game and then buy the DLC, which it wasn't. I mean, he plays the game quite often, so it's fine. But it's just it's a very funny way that our Steam libraries have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that are like almost trivia things that I want to talk about. I don't know if the first one's trivia, but the Humble Bundle thing is a very mall approach. You have your anchor store that is the reason that people come there. So if you're like your J.C. Penney, your Macy's or whatever, and then there's the other stores that are there, well, since I'm already here, I might as well just go in. And that's very much the Humble Bundle thing. But it's funny to see the pivots that Humble Bundle has made over the years, because to Russ's point, from like the first Humble Bundle, I don't know if you guys know, but you could have bought the entire pack for 1 penny. And there's lots of people that bought many, 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 many packs for 1 penny.
Yeah.
And now, like on especially like gray market keys, there's still like a lot of keys back from that dime where they're selling them for way more, and they have like no expiration date, which is also like a part of the cool thing of like why Steam was so awesome, was because all these companies could just make free Steam keys that would exclude Valve from the 30%, and then you had all this stuff. So it's just really awesome. Like from everything that Valve was doing was also just like further cementing my my thoughts of staying with them. But it's been interesting to see all the pivots, and now we have that final thing where it's like you only have 1 year to redeem this code, and it's like, oh, all right.
So to be clear, and this is not, there's no proof of this per se, but like a lot of the pivots seem to be Humble adjusting to Valve changing the rules, right? So like we know about like the platform most favored nation accusation or allegation, let's say, where Valve is allegedly asking developers or telling developers that they cannot price a game for significantly lower on another store without having the same discount on Steam. And there, we've had back and forth about this before, but if that's true, some of the quotes that were in the emails extend to bundles, right? So the bundle price can't be very different from the price you see on Steam within some time period, whatever that is. And so like, if that's the case, then yeah, they can no longer sell a bundle for a penny. And they did seem to crack down a bit on people just generating keys kind of indiscriminately, and things like that. Right. So, and it does seem like perhaps they don't apply the rules the same across the board potentially. But it does seem like those, like some developers have been caught in some of those things.
All right. Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
So a couple things real quick. Extra copies of games. So I want to kind of more trivia or minutia. Carrie, I'm sure you know about this. But there was a time before Steam Deck and before I was a YouTuber that I was trying to like min-max the games that I'm actually playing versus the games that I own. And so one thing I would do is those Humble Bundle copies, Bill, I would trade them on barter.vg. So right. Barter.vg is a very functional but terrible UI website where like you can trade your game keys for other people's game keys. And there are people on there. No, not cool. Because just so you know, the people that are on there are sharks. They know what they're doing. They're only going to trade for a certain values they're only going to trade certain value for certain value. They know exactly. So like it is super like hard to get anything like reasonable for what you're going to trade. Like if you're trading something that's in Humble Choice, they don't, like everybody has the stuff that's in Humble Choice
right
at this point. So, but for a time, it was very cool. And, for what it's worth, if there was a Humble Choice that you missed and you want that game and you can trade it for a game that you have, then there you go.
The one also tying a bow on what Russ was saying as well, and what you're saying as well, is that you can actually get my receipts for this on Discord and on Twitter. Whenever I would like talk about that, and whenever people talk about having so many games, I would always bring up the fact that it's actually far more impressive to see someone with like 40 games on Steam, because that person is like has like the
restraint.
Just like absolute will. Like, no, I'm just going to buy this game and then I'm going to play it. And then I'm going to finish it. And then if there's another game, I'll buy it when I'm ready. And that to me is actually the true hallmark of like impressiveness. If I see someone with a low Steam count number, I think that's like the most impressive thing is, you know, having like 100 or 200 games is like, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's understood. If you played all those, that's amazing.
Right.
But yeah, having less is far more impressive to me than whatever the hell I have.
I do have one last thing on this. Is you mentioned one of the quotes that was like Steam helping indies, right? And I always hate that phrasing. I feel like it is and it's from the blog post, right? It wasn't you saying that. But like I feel like it's so much more symbiotic than not symbiotic, but it's more, you know, like they're helping each other, right? And there was a time where Steam had virtually no big third-party publishers, right? And during that time, it was indies that held Steam up. And it was that time that Carrie's talking about around 2011, where, you know, people were buying the Space Chems, the Frozen Synapses, the Castle Crashers, all of that stuff on Steam in lieu of whatever, you know,
So
AAA publishers were missing.
The one thing I actually will give Valve credit for here is that in 2011, this is still before Greenlight was a thing.
Yeah.
So every
I
indie
forgot
game,
about Greenlight.
so every indie game that was coming to Steam, Valve actually vetted before they put it on the platform. So they were, what is the word I'm looking for? Where you have someone as like a taste tester.
Curate.
Yeah, they were curating what was available on Steam. So while it was symbiotic, where indies were helping Steam by and large, Valve was also doing the work to make sure whatever they were actually putting on the platform was actually solid. And I remember talking to a few indie devs that said they couldn't get on there. And then Greenlight came out and it was $100. And then even then there was like, you had to build up like a momentum. And then the dam just broke and it was just like, just put it on there, just go nuts. So it's curious to see where it's come and gone and the strength of Steam over the years. I don't know. It just seemed to me to be a foregone conclusion by 2010 that I don't know why you would want to have a game library anywhere else, especially as we're moving towards digital, especially when you can have a platform that you can upgrade at will. And then with PC gaming handhelds, dude, there's a thread on NeoGAF where I actually paid someone $600 for a GPD Win 1 because he got it earlier than me. And I was frightened, genuinely frightened that someone else was going to beat me to the punch of like doing this on YouTube. And no one was talking. No one had any foresight of like I was showing it all. I could have just waited another 3 weeks and no one would have done anything.
Yeah.
So it was still super early at the time where people just, you know, were impressed by what was capable of it. And they just had no concept of what was actually possible. And it's been a wild roller coaster to see where we've come.
I got to be honest, Carrie. I don't think that I had ever heard of GPD as a company until I met you and saw one of your videos. Like they are under the radar. Like they're very much under the radar.
Yeah.
I think so many people have no idea about them. Like when we were at PAX in May, remember we were at dinner with those devs and Bob and you pulled the GPD win mini or whatever it was out.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, what the hell is this thing? And they were passing it around the table and talking about, you know, oh, this is really comfortable to play on. It looks awful, but it's great. That's the kind of thing, like every single person at the table other than me and Bob were like floored because nobody knows about those devices at all.
Yeah. What's surprising to me about that whole thing is that GPD was around for 4 years, essentially owning the entire PC gaming handheld market. Yep. And you had to be fairly plugged in to know that GPD existed. And then Aya Neo came on the scene and everyone started talking about that as if it was the first thing. And that's what surprised me the most was that Aya Neo, I guess because it was just a very traditional, you know, only handheld console. Like there was no keyboard buttons on it. Seeing a keyboard on anything, people are like, oh, that's like a little laptop. And just seeing the controls only, I think is really, I have no concept of it. I think the only other thing that I could think of is that perhaps it's because like places like The Verge and Engadget were actually talking about it as opposed to GPD.
But to your point, why did they talk about it in the first place, right? And I think you nailed it. It first of all, the INEO really like came after the Switch, whereas GPD started before Switch, I want to say.
It
right?
was a year before.
Yeah. So like INEO, between the Switch really being established at this point and INEO kind of did not having a keyboard, really brought that point home, right? Like this is Switch, but for PC gaming. And that really, like, that's an easy concept to understand, and they nailed it.
Yeah. The original design was, the original design was supposed to be a Switch. They had removable Joy-Cons, but then in the 11th hour, slapped them back together.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
So I guess my last question on this topic is, we have these giant libraries, and they've been sitting there for the most part doing nothing for a really long time. Do you guys think that, is there any chance anywhere in the world or at any point in the future where we would be able to like sell our games through Steam? Valve could take a transaction fee and give some of that transaction fee back to the publisher, because right now they're not being used at all, and that would be like free money to Valve. Rich, what do you think?
I don't think there's a single chance of that, right? Like, just the logistics involved of getting the right amount of people to approve. So mind you, this reminds me of the red button concept. That's what I call it, which is the concept that Valve has something in place for if the servers, if Valve is one day not a thing, that you'll be able to download your games, right? And before it shuts down Steam. Now, this notion exists because a Valve customer support said something to that effect 13 years ago. But do I think they actually have that in place? No, I don't, right? Like, and I think if they did, it's long gone by now. I think it would be virtually impossible to get like Ubi, Square, Microsoft, Sony, all of these third-party publishers to agree to, yes, if you can do that. You can download your game. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the DRM, right? Whatever's on there already. So likewise, I think it would be impossible logistically to get all of these publishers on board with selling your library or selling a portion of your library to someone else.
So, there's 2 points that I want to talk on there. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think that that's happening anytime soon without any regulation intervention saying that it must be so. Because if we are in a world where physical actually stops, like all physical video game sales are 0%, then I think we're going to be in a world where somewhere in the EU that we could probably get into a realm of them saying there has to be a used video game market for digital licenses. I could see that happening. I don't think a publisher would be able to extract anything from that at that point in time, because they don't extract anything out of a used game currently. So including them messes up a bunch of stuff, but maybe that'd be the case. To touch on what you had said, Rich, for the red button situation, I also don't. I'm ultimately in agreement with you. And where things get super dicey is on games that have external DRM, and those are just like absolutely not included in this. But anything that is Steam DRM only or less, obviously you can. And I say that because like Steam DRM is like whatever. And it's already been like you could in effect log into Steam, go into offline mode, and set your PC 50 years in the future and still play any game that has Steam DRM, and it doesn't care. Like, it doesn't care about how long you've been offline. You've logged in, you've downloaded it, you're good to go. So there is this indefiniteness that's already been tested, but that does not apply to all DRM. So there is obviously not 100% of that is true. But as it applies to selling licenses, I have to wonder. If something doesn't happen.
Just real quick, Russ, tell us about this tool that you just dropped in chat.
Yeah, if you go to steamdb.info/calculator, you can put in your username, your Steam username, and it'll show you all these stats. And so I just pulled up mine, and it says that of the 540 games that I own, the 540 is a different number than the 521 I had earlier, but that's probably some delisted games and those that I maybe hid. But anyway, it says that 215 of those I've actually played. So 39% of my library I've played. Not beat, obviously, but still, that's pretty cool. And then it also shows the value of your account based on the 540 games that I own. It says that it's $3,172 based on the lowest price that it's ever been, basically, for each of those games. Or in today's prices, it's worth $10,000. It's kind of crazy. I don't know how much. I wish I could see how much I spent to get that. You know what I mean? But
you don't want to know that number.
But it's pretty cool tool.
You can see the amount you spent on Steam, right? But then there's also Humble, Agreement, wherever else you bought that you can't see, unfortunately. For me, I have apparently 55% of my library played. I will, one more Steam minutia here. I will say that I've used Steve Achievement Manager in the past to rack up trading cards like Carrie was talking about. And so like that artificially inflates your playtime
it does.
on certain games. I used it for like a month period, so it's not crazy, but there are some games that it says I played and I did not play
because I still use Archie Steam Farmer today. Every game that has a Steam trading card, it will indicate that I've played it. Which is obviously false. So basically, if you've never used any of these programs, then that figure should be pretty correct. But for me, there's like, you've played 6,000 of your games. That's pretty good.
not a chance.
Yeah, that's how much I played.
Actually, Carrie, that's right along. I mean, 6,000 is half of 12, which is just about exactly what the article predicted.
Yeah, so I have to wonder if the article isn't using SteamDB info that is also kind of padding in these numbers of people that are using Steam Archie Farmer, which is giving inaccurate statistics on top of that.
So it's actually worse than we thought.
I would personally say it's far lower than that, just based on the information.
But what's the value of your Steam account, Carrie? We got to get to the real questions here.
Okay, hang tight.
Okay, while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead, Rich.
I said mine is today's prices $30K, 29,337.
That's a new car.
Right? Yeah, seriously. That's a thing. But
so one other thing. Yeah, I was going to say one other real interesting stat is average price per hour. So that looks at the value of your thing and then how many hours you've played and how much you're spending to play per hour. So I've got 1,000 hours on record and it says $3 an hour basically is what I'm paying to play my Steam games, which is cool.
I was just going to say mine is $1 too. So I'm getting a pretty good value, it seems.
Yeah, that's better.
Are you guys looking at the red number or the green number for the price?
I was looking at the red today's prices number.
Okay. Yeah. Just making sure. So mine, I have my account set to private because sometimes I get games early and I don't want I don't want anybody to see what I'm playing because of embargoes or whatever. So I don't mine just says average price per hour, private, hours on record, private, average playtime, private. But mine on today's prices, the red number is 13,490. Did you find yours, Carrie?
Yes, I did. So, you ready?
All right, we're going to hold on. All right, Rich, I want you to make a prediction for his number.
Well, if mine is $30K in today's prices, then his has to be over $100K. Jesus.
Okay, and Russ, over or under 100K?
Over.
Over? Okay, Carrie?
So we're just doing the thing. All right, so today's prices is $93,000 and $299.
So close. So close.
Pretty close.
You know what, Rich? You would have won the showcase showdown right there. Or no, you would have lost because you went over.
I went over. Yeah.
Yeah,
$1.
If you just looked at the lowest price of all of them, it's 24,151.
Wow,
24,000. Wow, on just lowest prices.
You have to understand that is from Steam's lowest number, but I got so many from bundles where I got them for 10 cents, so it's far lower than that even.
Fair. Fair.
Yeah, so
Yeah, okay. Your wife's not listening to the podcast, Carrie. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to make up some stuff.
Sweating. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
that's insane
That's
to
a
think
kitchen
about.
remodel right there.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's insane to think about because my lowest prices is 9,273. So feasible. I know I got some in bundles, but feasibly, how much I've spent on Steam has to be somewhere near that number, like between 5 and 10K, which is
How many
Jesus.
hours? How many hours on record do you guys have?
Private.
almost
Can I
almost
look at
10K.
it?
Yeah, I'm at
Can I just go to Steam Powered to see it?
That same calculator, it shows you just below.
No, but mine's private because
Oh,
I would have to
then
go into my account and like
I'm
change
just using
things.
this. I'm just showing you how inaccurate it is.
Yeah,
These-
what's yours?
31,000 hours in paid games.
Yeah, there's no way.
31,000 hours.
There's no way I have 10K hours to be
What is
honest.
31,000 hours in life?
I'm
Yeah.
trying to find that out. 31,000 divided by 24. That's 12,091 days divided by 365. That's 3.5 years, Carrie.
Straight
Yeah, straight.
doing nothing but playing.
Nice.
No
Steam.
bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
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 Anybody who plays World of Warcraft, do not type /played into the chat box. You will be very unhappy with your choices.
Yeah. I'd like to challenge Carrie. Carrie, I think you were wrong. I think it was in 2009, 2010 Summer of Arcade that was bad. Cuz like 2009 was Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Shadow Complex, Explosion Man, TMNT Reshelled, Trials.
No, that's all good. Shadow Complex, I effing loved. I played through
So
that game.
good.
Very good.
I got every achievement on that.
Yeah.
Explosion Man, I actually loved. I still
Very
miss.
good.
I still miss Twisted Pixel to this day because they were like almost like a Double Finey type of studio.
Did they get bought by Microsoft? Is that what happened?
They did, and then I guess just vanished. That was early too. That was like Xbox One days because they were making Kinect games. But I mean, like, I feel like 2007, 2008 Summer of Arcade, but 2010 Summer of Arcade felt weak as F.
So 2010 did have two real weak links, Castlevania Harmony of Despair and Monday Night Combat, both of which were fine, but like in Summer of Arcade terms, those were not near.
Yeah.
The other ones, though, were Hydro Thunder Hurricane, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, which is way underrated, and Limbo. Yeah, it was really good.
Limbo.
Did you say that was overrated, Rich?
Underrated. Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light is way underrated. Like, that game was so good.
That's kind of what I mean. Like, I effing loved XBLA so much. Like, and especially I was doing the game sharing thing that was happening. So I had a buddy of mine with his 360, and I made that as my home console, and then I would use the memory card at home so that I could just buy it once and we can play together. I loved XBLA, dude. I loved XBLA so much. I don't know. I felt like indies were just like really good indies were just really on PC first, and that was where I don't know. It just felt like a much better place and just made more sense to me at the time. I mean, all those decisions I made back in 2010 are paying dividends for me today because now my library has been, it's still PC is my dominant platform and will always be. But yeah.
Well, if you need to remodel your kitchen, Carrie, now you know what to do. Earlier in the episode, we were talking about, rebuying your games. And sometimes you just buy it so that you have the knowledge knowing that, okay, I don't even have this system anymore, but now I have this computer. And so I rebought my game on Steam so that I can always play it, even though I don't have, for example, the Xbox 360 anymore. But that brings up an interesting conundrum that usually comes along with buying multiple copies of the same game. And this was actually sent in to us to our voicecast line, voicecast.app/NerdNest from a listener named Caliber, who has a question about cross saves. Give a listen.
Hey, NerdNest. What I want to hear you guys discuss today would be the topic of normalizing cross-save across platform. Why isn't it in a platform's financial best interest to normalize cross-save? If it were me, I'd buy multiple copies of the game.
So just so everybody knows, he had a lot more detail, and if you guys want to read it, it's down in the it's lower in the show notes. But I edited it down because it was too long to just stare at us listening to somebody talk for a while. So if you guys do call in, try and keep them short so that I don't have to do the editing. But I think it's a really good question, Russ. You're the one that was talking about rebuying the games that you already owned. You end up starting over for the most part. Like most games don't have cross save. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I've been a big proponent of cross saves, just even on this podcast a lot, just because, the PlayStation is a great example. Like a great single player experience game comes out, and I used to just buy it because I wanted to play it. But then the PC version comes out, and I'm like, now I kind of don't want to buy it because I've got to replay to get back to where I was, I do sometimes end up buying it, but mostly for like work related stuff, like to show like performance testing and videos and stuff. But yeah, that's my big thing. It's like, that cross save compatibility thing prevents me now the other direction, in that I no longer will buy the PlayStation games and I'll just wait for the Steam one, because then I can actually just start over, But when there is a cross save thing, like with a lot of the Xbox titles have been doing that, it's super awesome. Like I love that. Mm-hmm. And even, some others like Destiny and stuff, they have it all, you hook up with their overarching like Bungie account, and then you can still access all your stuff. So I have all that stuff set up, and that's wonderful. And yeah, I think it just makes you more apt to buy more games on more platforms, as opposed to kind of, rice bowling it and putting it just in your own little place.
So Rich, I agree with what Russ is saying. Why do you think that most devs don't give us an option to do cross saves? Because if for no other reason, if we had that option, we would probably buy 2 copies of their game.
Yeah, I think it boils down to just, like there's a lot of just getting across the finish line when it comes to making a game. And so like what you're talking about requires kind of baking this in, not necessarily from the beginning, but it's going to require some sort of account, right? So like now you have to build in the login and stuff like that. And so like if a game doesn't already have that, like it's not already using the Microsoft login, it's not already using Sony login, it's not already using Ubi login, then they're not really thinking about pushing that into a game that they're building. They're really probably just thinking about the game itself, not the quality of life features around like the metagaming of it, right? So that's what I suspect most of it is. I do think, and this is a point that you and I have harped on before, Bill, is that like for this to happen, it does require logins, right? And certainly these logins should not be mandatory, but if you allow that to be an option like Microsoft has done, but also build in like benefits to doing that, like cross save, then it builds up that network that you have for that application, which I think is a benefit to the people that are making the games for sure.
Yeah, the people who people who play on PC most of the time are very resistant to having another login. And I'll admit that most of the time I'm also resistant to that. Like, I'm like, I don't want to log into your stupid EA app. Just get out of my way so I can play the game. But like Rich is saying, if there's a benefit to it, I'd be fine with it. And then they get a second sale of the game that I just bought. So I bought 2 copies of the game so I can play it on 2 different places. They're also getting my email address so that they can market to me. But Carrie, do you think Rich is right? It's just a case of it's low on the list of priorities, and they have to focus on other stuff in order to get their game across the finish line before they run out of money.
I do think that there's value in saying that, but I think so. There's a bunch of things here. Like, I always just hated like powering on Cyberpunk, and they hit me with that splash screen, and I always have to press A, and I'm just like, just get me to it. I already have Steam Cloud saves. I don't need your crap. But when I got Cyberpunk for Switch and I was doing those testing, I was like, oh, I should probably sign up for this and do that cross save thing. So yeah, the incentive of the cross save like carrot that they have for getting your email, like you had said, is to market to you. So they need to offer something there. And to what Russ is saying, I almost like, there's always been even cross play, not even cross save. Cross play has been something that PlayStation itself has been fighting against. And I think it's because they are the dominant console player that they want to have these higher walls so that people are forced to stay inside of them. And I don't think that they counted on Russ being like, well, I just won't be in your wall. I will wait until you put it outside the wall. And I'm of that mind as well. But I also agree that if they just do cross save, they're not really thinking about the possibility of selling a game again. They are doing some things that for on the PC side. So like Ragnarok, I started playing through and I hooked that up to PSN to get trophies as well. And I love that. I love being able to get trophies while I'm playing the PC version. And I think that as we get closer and as time goes on, I personally feel most people will be going to PC just because, well, SteamOS is like such a console-fied thing. We still have yet to see how the Xbox experience pans out on PC. I don't know. I feel like it's an eventuality that we will see it be far more than just isolated companies like Ubisoft, EA, CD Projekt Red, even No Man's Sky has their own server where they are maintaining cloud saves. Instead of having these like bifurcated, isolated developers that have to set up this entire server to facilitate cloud saves, I do think that there is an avenue somewhere for there to be a ubiquitous cloud save thing and for the light to be, oh, this is actually super beneficial. I don't know how that'll all pan out. I think that most companies are going to be like, I do want that sweet, sweet email so I can market to them. So how that all gets divvied up in between, it's probably going to be just that, is where they just want your email, they want your information, they want to be able to hit you up. And for them to store a save, it's no big deal.
Yeah. Well, this has been a super interesting conversation talking about that topic. Let us know in the comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Number one, I want to know what are your accounts worth, and what's your backlog look like? Let us know in the comments. And if you're listening to this and on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can head over to the YouTube channel to leave a comment so that we can hear about that. Rich, why don't you pick a story from our show notes and we'll continue with that.
Okay. I guess I have to pick Gamepass is actually profitable. I'm a man of respectful debate with Carrie. We were debating about Gamepass being profitable in chat, and when he brought it up when you guys brought it up on the podcast last week, I had wished that I was on to talk about it, because I certainly would have said there's no way, just based on the way that Microsoft is behaving, that they're profitable. And the reason it came up last week, I think, was Christopher Dring, the journalist, basically alluding to it not being profitable. He did not actually say that. What he said about a week ago was that, I'm going to look for the quote here. He said, costs associated with Game Pass business is fees paid to third party. Well, here he is saying it is profitable. This is the new quote.
That's the new quote. Yeah. The old one, basically, he was saying that they weren't including first party titles in their accounting when it came to on whether or not it was profitable.
Right. And that wording kind of leads you, or led me and many others, to believe that, like, oh, if you're saying that, that means that if you do take it into account, it's not profitable. But he this week clarified that statement and said that basically Xbox and people at Xbox that would know have told him that it is profitable, even when you do include even lost first party sales for games that end up on Game Pass. So, you know, that's one where I'm eating crow. I was wrong. And I think that it's even more interesting, perhaps, that like Microsoft is behaving like they're not profitable in a way. And so so I guess they just are laying people off at like record pace just because they are greedy, right? Like that's it. That's the only answer to this. And
I can see the meme right now of Star Wars fans. You're going to know this meme where Padme is asking Anakin, and she says, so you're not going to raise the price of Game Pass, right, Anakin?
Right.
And then she says, right, Anakin?
Right. Yeah.
That's the one I can see in my head. Russ, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it seems like they're unhappily profitable. I think that's probably the best
That's
description.
the way to put it. Yeah, that's it.
I was just reading a book, and in one of the quotes in it was like, the worst possible thing, worse than like never getting whatever your wildest dreams are, is actually getting your wildest dreams, because it ends up always falling flat, and so maybe it's one of those things where, just as a whole, Game Pass is working and it's all working in its own little kind of ecosystem, but somebody outside of that system is like, well, could be better. Let's try something else. You know what I mean? Like there's some other interest at play, maybe.
Who do you think that person outside of Game Pass or Microsoft is? Like, what is their role?
I don't know enough about the industry, but yeah, some guy who's like, well, yeah, but this number was supposed to go to 9 and it only went to 8. You know what I mean?
Well, I was thinking shareholder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Carrie, any thoughts on Game Pass being profitable?
So that what was interesting about that is we had that discussion before Christopher Dring brought up like a few days later saying, hey, they don't include first party things. And then everyone went and took that for what they well, of course, if I'm doing great in my diet, if I dismiss all the cake I'm eating and that's a hard thing to fight back against. And I've had so many people on Twitter be like, look at this. And I'm like, yes, I know he said that, but you don't have all the details. So I was on like a defensive stance where I didn't have enough data myself, but I was still sticking to my gun saying they make money. They do, like, and no one wanted to hear it. And then when he followed up, I was like, and then they're like, hey. So here's the deal. There's two things about this that are counterintuitive and do not seem to make sense. And there's lots of ways that you can look at that. There's the philosophy, which is called the velocity of money, which is a fantastic thing just to be aware of. And Amazon practices the velocity, the idea of the velocity of money. And I would have arguments with my brother about this all the time when we'd be talking about stock. And I'm like, I should buy Amazon stock. And every time my brother would be like, they don't make any money. And I'm like, what? And he's like, they don't make any money. And I'm like, they make money. He's like, no, look at their profits. It's basically zero. And I'm like, hold on. You're telling me that the gross is like this all the time. And just because you see profit like this all the time, that's engineered. Someone is engineering that profit line to be zero. And the stock market people are just, they don't make any money. Meanwhile, Amazon was reinvesting all of that money into all of the servers. And then it became AWS, which makes more money than Amazon Shopping does now. And they just make even more money. And they just keep doing it. They just keep reinvesting. There's sometimes that Amazon would have, like, when you call up customer service for Amazon and you'd be like, hey, I have a problem with this. Like, all right, you want a full refund? There's money that is just associated with giving money back to customers just to make them happy and make them a sticky Amazon customer. Like,
it works.
It does. And that, like, no one is like thinking about this because they're like, that profit means they make zero. And it's just like, look, Japan has the best detectives in the world because no one commits murder. Everyone just commits suicide. And it's like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Like, a detective comes in, he's like, well, these people committed suicide. This is like, just because that statistic is there, you have to peel away the layer and be like, what is going on here? You can't have like homicide rates of like people being murdered very low and super high suicide rates. Like, somewhere that is getting mixed up, and you have to be able to peel those away.
All the would-be murderers are killing themselves.
It's getting dark.
I'm just saying that statistics, even for this guy for the Steam thing, where he said the article where 50% of people play their Steam library, that is getting data. If it's getting data from SteamDB, that is polluted data that does not have 100% accurate data. And that's what I'm saying is you have to take a look at any statistics that you got and try to weigh them on like other things, which then starts getting really murky. But the thing that I look at Game Pass for, and I said this on the previous one, was that you have to look at this through the lens of things where numbers are past the point of being comprehensible. And when you are dealing with super high numbers where it's practically you're dealing with infinite numbers, I brought up the YouTube as an example because if you think that YouTube, what it is, like 720,000 hours per day that they ingest now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is not sustainable. That is not sustainable. Like, but they do it. So how could you have something that is not sustainable? Clearly, because you can't just have someone just be like hard drive, hard drive, hard drive, hard drive,
So-
hard drive. Like,
to push back on that a bit, there's a different, like, sustainable, right? Over, so like for the YouTube thing, it's not sustainable unless unless YouTube has almost full market share of like, and they command the market of the servers, the right, and all of this stuff that, like, they control the viewership pretty much for anybody streaming video.
absolutely. And that benefits them because then they know who's actually getting videos, and anything that they're getting in, they'll just be like, we're not going to send anything to him. We're not going to make proxies for that. We're not going to even store the full copy of it. But not also think about everything else that Google has. You have Google Drive, Gmail,
Right.
And all of these are storage, and every one of these is just money, right? It's just like, how do you turn this dial at any given time? Because you have so much storage already. You can just prune and move this dial as you want. And Game Pass is like that. You have this money dial that is flowing in, and, you know, not to the same extent, but you just dial it, and you can there at no point. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, just on the sustainable point for Game Pass, when I thought of, and I don't know how other people meant this, when I thought of, you know, Game Pass is not sustainable, what I meant that to be was the prices that they were paying for those exclusives. So, like, some of those numbers are reported and out there, right? And I don't remember if GTA 6 was one of them. Anyway, I don't want to go through numbers because the numbers might be wrong, but, you know, either way, I think that whatever that number was is probably not the number that they're going to be able to offer to some of these games in 5 years from now, which I think is reasonable to say, right?
So if Kerry makes a game today, he's going to get $10 for it. But in 5 years, Kerry makes his sequel to that game, and Microsoft's only going to offer him $5 for it.
Yes.
So
yeah, okay, I understand your argument.
I agree with that, but also I want to say here that 100% Game Pass, Ultimate Game Pass, whatever, those prices are going up. They're going up. Like, that is a foregone conclusion, because I use McDonald's as my metric, because McDonald's is out of control. And since 2019, it's like prices are up 40% on average. But like I look at my McChicken, and it's like in 2019, a McChicken was $1 by me, and now it's $3.49, and that's insane. Like I don't know, and I always look at that, and it's like, okay, at what point does McDonald's become a habitual line stepper, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
When does it step over the line? And I feel like it already has. But if you look at what Game Pass Ultimate has already increased in price to, it was like 15% from 2019 numbers, which means that there's still a bit of a dial that we can turn up there. And if we do like the 40% prior to the already increased number, we're looking at like $24 a month for Ultimate. So like a $4 increase per month. I think that that's likely to happen. That we're going to hit like a $24, $25 for Ultimate sometime soon, because everything just costs more money now. Everything costs more money. So
but at the same time, they said that they're making money, and Russ said that they're unhappily profitable.
Oh yeah,
because they want to seem like they're not. They want to make it seem like they're not really raking it in, so that the consumer will accept that price increase.
There's a part here, and I don't know what this affects them, but I'm going to give you an anecdote of like way back in the day. Remember the Linksys router that everyone bought for Wi-Fi? The original Wi-Fi router. Everyone bought the same Linksys router.
The blue and black with the two. Yeah.
I remember that.
Microsoft sold the networking products back in the day, and they owned 20% of the market, and they left the market because that wasn't enough for them. So that's to give you an idea of back then Microsoft, of like how unhappily profitable they'll be, to like, 20%, screw that. And not for nothing, Xbox is kind of like that because LinkedIn makes as much money as Xbox does.
Correct. And there's no way they cost the same, right? There's no way. Yeah.
So there is some avenue. When I see all these layoffs and stuff, I can see them looking at this as like the networking product arm of Microsoft, and be like, we got rid of this, guys, because we weren't like swimming in it. And it's like, well, 20% wasn't enough for you guys? But I feel like they understand that gaming actually is it drives a lot of things, and it's a whole other side of the conversation that just drives me batty. Is like no one respects gaming and considers it a toy, but when AI, which was built on all of the work that GPUs had done, is like, I don't know, it just it grinds my gears. That's a whole other side topic, but yeah, I don't know. When I look at money and when there's like lots of money, there's like, is it profitable? 100%. Is Microsoft happy with those profits? No. 100% they're not. I think those are like the different things that I think need to be addressed. But when you talk about like such large sums, it really just is like, oh, okay, we just have to dial this in. And it's like, well, they can't, pay third parties as much. And it's like, okay, that might be the case, but they also have a crap ton of first parties. They could literally say no more third parties. They still have not put in most of their Activision stuff into Game Pass. Like, They could just release that and just say, hey, we have new Game Pass games this month, and it's just Activision stuff. So I don't know. There's lots of ways to talk about that, but I don't know. Yeah, that's where it is.
Russ, let's move on to another topic. What do you see in the show notes that looks good?
Yeah, there's an article about Final Fantasy and the viability of turn-based combat in the future. So they're interviewing, one of the producers and behind the franchise who worked on Final Fantasy 16, so Naoki Yoshida. And he, obviously Final Fantasy 16 is an action RPG. There's no turn-based in it. But then with Clair Obscure's success, they're like, hey, are you guys reconsidering this stuff? And his answer, more or less, was just basically, well, it's hard. The better graphics and the bigger the game that you make, it's harder to make it turn-based because it kind of starts to slow down the combat experience and kind of doesn't feel as like big, And then also mentions that it feels like turn-based combat can kind of sometimes feel like it's on rails. And so like they have some hesitation with a big budget game like that. But it sounds like, it's very hard, especially with Japanese developers, to like get a straight answer out of them sometimes, and I think Final Fantasy is really good at that stuff. And they're just like, yeah, I can't tell you what I'm working on or what, if I'm going to be in 17 or 18. But yeah, they're it kind of alludes to that it being more maybe a blended combat style where maybe there's some turn-based, but then also action elements to it. But the main reason I wanted to bring this up, though, is that the Final Fantasy games are on sale on Steam right now. And Final Fantasy 16 right now is $32, which I think is a good price for that game. The DLC is on sale, so I'm going to finally pick that up. It's $16 instead of, I think usually it's like $25. So I'm probably going to pick that up as well.
So one of the other things that Yoshi P is what most people call him, because but I don't know if you guys know this, but yeah, he did Final Fantasy 16, but at the same time, he also runs Final Fantasy 14, which is an MMO. Like, I don't know how this guy does it. It's crazy to me. He must have a very good support structure for the people who work for him. But basically, he said, look, I don't know, or I can't say if I'm working on Final Fantasy 17 or what, like they could have another person work on that. And it's going to be up to whoever is in charge of that particular game and what vision they have for that game. So like Russ said, they did not answer the question even a little bit. But it's interesting to me because he said that it's possible. Carrie, would you prefer that they go back to turn-based or stay with the action-based combat in mainline Final Fantasy games that come out these days?
My preference would be they only make 2D HD games that are faster to make, that are turn-based. The turn-based is what I would like. I think that they do it well, and I don't think that what they've done as they've tried to follow the market has been paid dividends for them at all. They've just excluded their own diehard fans and not like if that's the case, I don't know. I just really like their 2D HD games. I assume that they don't cost as much to make, and I like them a whole bunch more than everything else. So to answer your question, I would like them to do turn-based more than live action that they've already done.
Yeah, I would say that I don't think that necessarily the action combat is what costed what made the Final Fantasy games not take off like they used to. I think more of that was because they were exclusives and you couldn't play them on most platforms. It was like it wasn't on Xbox, it wasn't on PC, it wasn't on Switch, it was only on PlayStation. And then Square finally admitted, you know what, that was probably not the right move. Rich, would you prefer to have turn-based or action combat for your Final Fantasy games?
Oh man, so it's not like I've played a ton of Final Fantasy games, right? I've played 7, 8, a bit of 6, a bit of which one? 13? No, not 13, but then 7 Remake, 7 Rebirth, right? So like I've played less than half of the Final Fantasy seriously, so I don't have like a strong connection to any of them, and I don't, to be honest, I don't care, right? Like it could be turn-based, it could be real time, and as long as the combat is good, I'd be interested, right? And so like I've seen bad turn-based combat, I've seen bad real-time combat. If what the director, the creator wants to do is real-time combat, that's fine by me. I do think you walk dangerous ground when you say that like you can't do turn-based combat with XYZ. For example, like high fidelity graphics. When you say something like that, that's are weird. Kind of, yeah, that's a weird thing to say, and you're setting yourself up to be proven wrong. So when a Persona, a Metaphor Refantasio, and a Clear Obscure come out and they do banger numbers, right? Like you look dumb. Yeah. And I'm not saying Yoshi's dumb by no means, but it's a bad look. So like, right. I don't think that when a creator wants to make something, I don't think that they have to say, we're not doing this because it's not going to work for this reason or whatever. You're making what you want to make. That's fine.
Right.
Just do that. Yeah,
exactly.
The thing that Square Enix, I think, really lost the path was trying to go down a place where they thought everyone wanted to be and failing along the way. And to bring up one example again is like Rockstar Games. They have been like when you talk about like production time of how long it takes Square Enix to make a new Final Fantasy game is like eons. Like it feels like it's forever. It's the same for the Grand Theft Auto, but I don't think that Grand Theft Auto strayed too far away from what they were like going to, the promise of what you were going to play changed all that much. It was just going to be more. It was going to be amped up. It was going to be more Grand Theft Auto as opposed to being something completely different. I don't know. Perhaps it's not even a thing that is super marketable. I don't know. I don't know. There's like certain things. If I was in charge of a lot of things, we'd have sliding gaming phones. We'd have like strips Halo and a handheld.
An actual Xbox handheld.
Yeah. What do I know? I know nothing. Everything I want, no one does.
That's fair.
I will say though that like, for me, like the 2D HD games don't necessarily have to be combat or turn-based, some of my favorite RPGs are like the Tales of Symphonia games, stuff like that. Like those, I like the button mashing element of Final Fantasy 16, and I feel like the Tales games kind of had that as well. So I don't know. I kind of feel like that might be the best mashup for me, is something that looks, old school, but then also kind of feels a little bit more modern, and you could still have, parries and dodges and blocks and stuff like that, like all the things that I loved about Clair Obscur, but have them in an action RPG element. I think I'd really enjoy that.
Yeah, and you have those things, those are in action games, and they've been in turn-based games since like Paper Mario. Like,
yeah.
Right. Or Mario RPG is the one that I meant to say. Because like you would hit the button at the right time in order to do bonus damage or in order to reduce the amount of damage that you took.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think to bring your point home, Russ, right? Like you can, part of the difficulty of departing from something is that you have to attract the right amount of people, more so than the people that you're alienating, right? And so like maybe by going real time combat, maybe that brings over the Tales of Symphonia folks, the Devil May Cry folks, all of those kind of folks. But like that has to offset the number of like FF people that you're alienating. And the other thing I don't like about the way it was phrased in that article, I don't know if it's what he actually said, but was like this idea that like turn-based combat gets rote. And like I've seen rote turn-based, I've seen rote real time. It's just down to design.
There's one question I think I would ask you guys, because for me, when I think of a Square Enix game, because I also consider Chrono Trigger to be like peak Square, like insofar as it's a turn-based game, an RPG, JRPG. But the reason that I play it wasn't so much for the combat. So outside of turn-based and outside of real time, when I think of a Square Enix game, the what I am hoping for is outstanding music and well-paced story. And that is why I play those games. And I feel like at some point, especially in the 90s, when they were like, man, I hope we got to make sure these people don't sell their games so that we don't make money, we're losing money on used game sales. And they started like padding like 100. This game has 150 hours of gameplay. I feel like that really crapped up things a bunch, because that just slows progress. I don't know. For me, the music, especially for Square Enix games, are like peak. They're absolute peak. And that's some of the stuff that I really look for in those JRPGs, more so than combat than anything. And like Octopath Traveler had a limit break, was just like a really simple paper, rock, scissors type of deal. So I really enjoyed that as a 2D HD game, but it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. I try to like distill what I actually look for in those games, and it really comes down to story and music.
I do think that's a good point, right? Because when you think about Atlas and the RPGs that they make, a lot of what they've nailed for a lot of people is that style, right? Like it doesn't have to be necessarily what Final Fantasy was doing, although with Metaphor it is. But they just nailed really good music, really good ambience, really good, like even the UI, right? And it feels like you're entering a different world when you play one of those games. I haven't played Final Fantasy seriously in a while, so I don't know if they do that or not. I thought 7 Remake was really good, for example, but I don't play any of the other ones to know.
Fair. Carrie, you want to grab a story out of the show notes?
Sure. Let us go with... You know what? Oh, I actually like this idea. Bethesda is allegedly working on multiple Fallout games, including Fallout 3 Remastered.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Are you hyped for this?
So I'm just hyped about Fallout 3 Remastered ever since Virtuos did Oblivion Remastered. I have like 7 days in that game of like gameplay time, although I cheesed a bunch, so there's a bunch of like hours that are, but like at least 5 days worth of like actual, like between like Japan and all the other stuff. I stopped playing other games just to replay this game, and the thought of them taking all of their learnings that they took on Oblivion, they still did a fantastic job on the remaster for Oblivion, and I really hope that they're the same team that does Fallout 3 Remastered remake. That alone would be just an amazing. Everything about that I love, because we didn't hear anything about it. There was like rumors and stuff that was like, okay, well, whatever. And then when it became like solid information, 2 weeks later, it was on Game Pass. And
yeah, it was awesome.
That's exactly what I want to happen again. I want there to be like, oh yeah, they're doing that. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. And no one really talking about it up until like, oh, here's an image of what the game looks like. And then 2 weeks later, we're playing Fallout 3 Remastered. But Fallout 5 is, a thing that they were working on. We actually talked about this before as well, where I really hope that they incorporate some of the show stuff into the game, where some people from the show up in the game. And they're like things, lore. They don't even show up. They just talked about. They're mentioned. I would love that. So there's a whole bunch of things. Fallout New Vegas Remastered would be insane. I don't know. There's a bunch that they can do there that I would absolutely love. They don't really need to remaster Fallout 4. I would much rather Fallout 3 being remastered. But yeah, that specifically Virtuos doing that thing. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right.
I think you are. Russ, Carrie wants to see cousin stuff in his Fallout remakes or his next Fallout game. Are you looking forward to Fallout 3 remake?
Yeah, the Fallout 3 is still like my beloved. Like I love that
Same.
one so much because I played through the original, and then this is the first game where I actually had a full DLC experience the way I think it was intended to be, where I would like play, I played through the game, devoured everything I could, and then I was just kind of done. And then a new DLC came out, and I bought it day one, played through it again, like re-entered the world, and I did that over and over again with like Brotherhood and New Steel and all the other ones that came out. And or Brotherhood of the Steel. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of torn about it because I loved that experience more than anything, that it was like a 2-year journey I had with Fallout 3, and if they make a remastered one and they just throw all that in there, I don't know. I might be a little bit daunted by that and be like, oh God, that's a lot of game. That's 2 years worth of game. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I worry that I may not jump into it because it would be so much. I kind of really, it was the time of my life and everything, but I loved that trickle approach. And I've never really had that again with a game when it came to like DLC and kind of trickling it out. I love that.
Rich, Fallout 1 and 2 were these top-down isometric RPGs, and then they took a huge risk and turned it into a first-person shooter with Fallout 3, still an RPG. I think a lot of people were really skeptical, and in the same way that people were skeptical that Nintendo could turn Metroid into a 3D shooter. But I think that they pulled it off, and the way I look at it is Fallout 3, in my opinion, is the best Fallout that we ever got. It's my favorite Fallout game that I ever played, and I've played all of them except for New Vegas, which I've played a little tiny bit of New Vegas long after it came out. And so it didn't really hit with me, mostly because it wasn't new at the time. But my question to you, Rich, would you prefer them to remake Fallout 3 or to take Fallout 1 or Fallout 2, which are not 3D shooters, and turn those into a 3D shooter like Fallout 3?
I don't have a preference. I'm not, just like Final Fantasy, not a big Fallout person. But here is, I guess, my right. I need to fix that. Here's what my preference is in terms of like success, right? And I think it is a no-brainer for Virtuos, as Carrie was saying, to remaster both Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Like, if you said Fallout 3 is your favorite, I've only ever known two people that enjoy Fallout. Either 3 is their favorite or New Vegas is their favorite, right? So like for all that entire audience, just remake both of them. You have the formula with Oblivion remastered. You can probably, I think both of those have the same engine as Oblivion, right? So like you can follow that same format, and hopefully it won't take you, hopefully it'll take you even less time than it did for Oblivion, and you have no brainers. What some have speculated too is that like after Outer Worlds 2 comes out, we don't really have like a forecast for what Obsidian is working on. So I think Obsidian remaster 3, remaster New Vegas, and then have Obsidian working on New Vegas 2 as New Vegas 1 launches, like that would be insane. Like that would go crazy for people. And then you really like Fallout has 400K people concurrent all-time peak, right? Starfield had 300K. Like there's no reason that you couldn't recreate those numbers in 2026 and beyond.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I guess the last topic that we're going to talk about real quick is the, where did it go? The Ghost of Yotei State of Play. It's about 20 minutes long. I watched it this morning. My son and I watched it, and he was like, holy cow, that looks awesome. And I agree. This game looks really, really good. So, Russ, I know you recently finished Ghosts of Tsushima, right?
Yeah, not the DLC, but I played the main game. Yep.
Did you get a chance to see the state of play for this?
No, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to wait.
So you want to go in cold. You don't want to know anything.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it. It's fine. But I just kind of don't want to see it, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
That's fair. So there are a couple of things that I think looked really cool. There's a bounty system where you can be like, I'm going to go hunt this guy down so I can make some money. You have a whole bunch of different weapons. So now you instead of like in the first one, which I only played for about 10 hours or so. I really should get back to that because I enjoyed every minute of those 10 hours that I played. You only had like one weapon, right? It was just like one kind of weapon, I mean.
Yeah, there's a variety you unlock over time. And the thing about it though, and this is a really interesting thing about the game, is that they have a very limited amount that you can hold at any given time. Right. And so you'll have like smoke bombs and all those other things that you can get. And this is one of the few games where I actually used all of that stuff. Usually what I'll do, like with Horizon Zero Dawn, I just use my bow and arrow the whole time. Like I don't use any of those traps. I don't do any of that stuff. I just get really good at one thing. But this is a game where you actually do end up using all of it because your inventory is so limited. You run out of the thing you want to use, so you use the next one and you kind of keep moving, you know. So yeah, there are a lot of other weapons, but it's mostly just sword combat, you know, when it comes down to it.
Yeah. So in Ghosts of Yotei, you got a big, huge, I don't know what it's called, but a huge long sword, like so long that the trailer answered a question that I've been asking myself for a million years is, when you got a big ass sword like that, how the hell do you put it in the sheath on the back of your, like, cause your arm's not long enough. And like they kind of tossed it up and then it slid in just perfectly. And I was like, whoa, that was a cool move. And it was right after they shook the blade off and the blood came off of it. I was like, that was really cool. They got that. You also can have dual swords. You can also have like a katana. You also can have like a spear. And depending on what enemies you're fighting and what weapons they're using, you need to do that rock, paper, scissors in this game where you are switching between the different weapons. Oh, he's got a spear. I'm going to switch to dual swords. Oh, shoot, this guy just brought out a katana. Well, I got to switch over to my spear or something like that. I don't know how it is. That looks really cool. Another thing that they have that I thought was really cool is that you have like a camp. You can camp at night, and instead of having the vendors be all over the world, they just come to your campsite. Like you'll be like, I want to talk to this guy so I can buy some stuff. And so he'll just come to your campsite. You open up your inventory, not your inventory, but your UI, and you're like, get that guy, the blacksmith, to come here so he can upgrade my thing. And he'll show up and fix your stuff. It's a lot of convenience stuff. But then they've got some really interesting modes. So did you ever play in Kurosawa mode? Any of you guys?
No, I played mine in color, but in Japanese with English subtitles.
Okay. So they have the Kurosawa mode again, but then this is really weird. They have a mode, and I don't remember what it's called, but it has like lo-fi beats as you're wandering the world. And so you're just kind of wandering around the world, like listening to this modern music. And it doesn't fit, but it works in a way. And I'm like, yeah, that looks really awesome. This game is high up on my list. I cannot wait to play it. Rich, are you interested in Ghosts of Yotei, or are you
interested?
Not your kind of game?
But I still have a long way to go on Tsushima, so I probably won't pick it up on launch, but I am interested for sure.
Do you see yourself? You are going to require that you beat Tsushima first before you play Yotei?
This goes back to the beginning of the conversation, right? So, like,
right?
I'm trying.
Are you disciplined?
I'm trying to be disciplined. We'll see if I actually stick to it. Inevitably, there'll be some point where I want to make a video on a new handheld with pretty graphics, but that's not for a while because it's going to come out to PlayStation first. So I think I have some time. I'm going to wait at least for the PC release. Let's put it that way. But
then you could play it on your PlayStation Portal, right, Carrie?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for PC as well. So I saw it, and I think it looks like there's like a few scenes. I'm like, man, that looks amazing. And I think the thing that really gets me weirded out is that there is still a contingent of people, and I get it. I can commiserate with them. But they were like, "Oh, Ghost of Yotei, it looks the same as Tsushima, like what they do." And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they don't, so it's like, when even back then, we were talking about Oblivion, right? The difference between Oblivion and Skyrim in terms of graphical fidelity, it's easy to see how much better Skyrim is. It's easy to see how much better Fallout 4 looks over Fallout 3. And this is like a few years of a development time. And I brought this up on Twitter, and I was like, even Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2 was a huge upgrade in graphical fidelity.
Yeah.
And I understand that when sequels come out, people anticipate that there is a big increase in graphical fidelity. And that's no longer the case just because game dev time takes too long. And I was like, look at, like, yes, that was in the past, and I can commiserate because you've had all of those experiences and expectations. And a lot of people are being like defensive for Ghost of Yotei, where they're like, what do you think a sequel is? It's just, it's a continuation. And they're kind of dismissing all the things that happened in the past. And for me, it's like when I look at God of War Ragnarok, that development cycle for Ragnarok was 4 years. It was 2018 to 2022. 4 years for a dev cycle in this generation is absurdly fast. Ghost of Yotei came out in 2020. Ghost of Tsushima came out in 2020, which means that this is a 5-year dev cycle, which is also blazingly fast. So,
Yeah.
Of course, you're not going to get this fantastic, gigantic difference of graphical fidelity. They are using the same thing that they did before, reusing a lot of animations, and then just adding on top of that. Tears of the Kingdom applies to it. Like, Tears of the Kingdom is not more graphically impressive than Breath of the Wild. It's just a lot more of it, and I can commiserate with both sides, but I don't find any fault with Yotei at all.
What is that? What does that sound?
Yeah, it's like a helicopter.
Is that you, Rich? Yeah, it's you.
I was going to say, is it me? I turned my mic, I think, by mistake. I'm going to turn it down. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Like,
I went to adjust the
Carrie
volume.
thought a helicopter was landing on his roof.
I went to adjust the volume, and it turned out I adjusted the mic. I tried to put it back, and I guess I didn't. Sorry about that. So I'm going to agree with you, Carrie, and more so. I know you're torn, but more so on the "this is okay" side, right? Because there is a recent Bellular News video that kind of called Shadow of Erdtree an asset flip, like saying that that's what people were calling it or something like that, but like also saying that this is okay, right? Like, it's okay to reuse these assets. It's okay to like not necessarily push the envelope all the way when it comes to graphics, and to maybe like do that every other title, right? So like, kind of like you're saying, you make Ghost of Tsushima, you push that envelope, that takes you 8 years. Okay, now take 4 years and not 8 years and make something with those same assets, kind of the same graphical engine. Don't go too crazy, but now we get to have some of those the benefits of what you've done and do that again, right? And like, it's not new. Like Ocarina of Majora's Mask is basically all Ocarina of Time assets, and it's just flipped. And now we have a brand new game that couldn't be more different from Ocarina of Time, and that's fun.
I love that you bring, literally I have the Metacritic score for Zelda Majora's Mask on my screen because that's the point I was going to make. Like, if people ignore because the graphics aren't updated enough, then they might miss out on something that's really good. Rich, what do you think the Metacritic score is for Majora's Mask?
I remember these being like the IGNs, like the only 10s or something like that. Which one did you say? Majora's Mask?
Majora's Mask. The asset flip.
Is it 98? The Metacritic?
Okay, so Russ, over or under 98?
Under.
I'm going to say under.
Okay, you guys both say under. Yes, it is 95. It's 95.
Which is still crazy high.
It's really crazy high, yeah.
Especially for an asset flip.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It's I have no problem with the graphics being the same. Rich, you got to say the thing that you always say.
Oh, darn. Yeah, someone help me. How does it go again? I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. I think that's it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I'm okay with the graphics looking the same because
it looks amazing.
Damn, if Tsushima is not one of the prettiest games I have ever had on my screen ever in my life.
And that's like
on.
For like God of War. God of War was amazing. Like absolutely for being on
beautiful.
a PS4, it was crazy. So I don't know where this is. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
People have to find a problem with everything. And go ahead. What were you going to say, Rich?
No, you finish. I'm sorry.
That's okay. People have to find a problem with everything. Like it's the internet. They got to complain about something. And
Yeah.
if they're not going to complain that the graphics aren't upgraded, then they'll just find something else to complain about for that game. What were you saying, Rich?
So I don't know if this is the same, but for some reason it's the same in my head, where like this thing about Mario Kart World and DK Bonanza both being Switch 1 games, like the story kind of started out as just like, oh, informational, right? Like this is a thing. They started out as Switch 1 games. Isn't that interesting? But like somehow along the way it got turned into like demonizing these games that were Switch 1 games because like, oh, like when are we going to get a true Switch 2 game or something like that? And it's like, who cares? Like they still look good. They still look like good games and they play well from the actual gameplay and the demo for DK Bonanza. By the way, that's in Target. Like, have you played that yet? DK Bonanza?
It's in Target?
It's in Target demos, yeah. The Target
in
stands.
demos. No, I have.
Yeah,
I don't go. I try not to go shopping if I can help it.
I went just to play DK Bonanza. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about it?
It was hard to really get a good read on it, but I like it. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. I like that whole like DK ambiance. I think they nailed it. I think it's a weird game and there are some like quirks to it. Like it's a little bit janky. Like when you like slam into the ground and like now it becomes a little bit hard to move your camera and there's some like camera glitching going on. But I like jank, so I think I'm going to enjoy it.
So let me ask you a question. And I'm going to try. I know Russ hates making predictions.
Yeah.
Russ, nobody's going to judge you. Okay. If you get it wrong, nobody's going to care. Rich, make a prediction. Where do you think it'll land on Metacritic?
I'm going to give it high 80. So like 88. I think we're going to see a lot of 9s from respectable like outlets. And I think it's going to come out being something like an 88.
Okay. I was going to say 90 is where I was going to say it was going to land on Metacritic as a 90. Carrie, I'm going to make Russ go last because he hates making these things. Carrie, where do you think Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to land on Metacritic?
I'm going to probably say 90. I think it'll be a 90 title for a host of reasons, but yeah, I'm going to settle on 90.
Okay. Russ?
I'm going to go 85 because I think you guys are overestimating how much people love Donkey Kong in general as a series. And I think the 85 for a Donkey Kong game is a lot. So that's my guess right there.
Yeah, I thought
That's
88
fair.
was a lot, so I was surprised to hear 90 because I'm going high.
I'm saying 90 because of the team. Like it's from the team that made Mario Odyssey, and that game is amazing. And everybody that I've talked to that has played Donkey Kong Bonanza has said it's really good. Although they all did mention that camera stuff that you were mentioning too.
Yeah. And to be fair, Mario Odyssey, what is it? Looks like it's 97. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Really good game.
Very, very good game. All right. Well, we've been talking for an hour 40 and we're going to get out of here. But before we do, these guys have projects that they've been working on that they want to tell you about. Russ, what's your next video or a video that's coming soon?
I think today I'm going to be working on the GPT Micro PC2. Carrie already did a video about it. It's that really small UMPC. Like it's not really a gaming PC at all, but price is reasonable, $500. It's got the N250 in it, Intel chip. Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff about that. Carrie focused mostly not on gaming stuff other than like old school gaming. I'm trying to see what we can get out of it. I ran into some issues. I'll show it in my video, but otherwise, yeah, I think it's a really interesting little PC.
What about you, Carrie? What projects you have going on?
Thankfully, I blitzed through everything I needed to do. I got 2 videos done last week, which is like insane. This video that I'm working on, I actually took a bit of a break. I'm going to actually open up the box. Intel shipped it to me at 3 or 4 weeks ago at this time. It's the Claw, the Lunar Lake Claw, because they had driver updates and they were like, hey, you should re-review it because we got more performance. And I was like, I don't have it anymore. And they were like, what? And they're like, yeah. I was like, and they told me I had to give it back to them. They're like, oh, let me figure this out. And then I went to Japan and all this other stuff, and then everything just piled up on top. So I'm finally like pretty much free. And this is what I'm working on now. So I'm going to be working on showcasing just how much they've improved since even before. So whatever driver updates they have now, hopefully I'll be able to capture that difference.
Very cool. Rich, what have you been working on, man?
I have another news roundup coming by the time this is out. I think the news roundup should be out. I am also working on my Legion Go S Steam Edition review, a little late to the party, but I'm enjoying my time with it. So, yeah.
So real quick, I'll tell people what I'm working on in a second, but Carrie, what device do you spend most of your time playing on these days?
I've been playing a lot on that weird PC. You know, I did what Microsoft couldn't. That's what That's why I've been playing home. It's my Windows PC as my console is my main. If we're talking about handhelds, I still kind of main Ally X. And then I kind of mix it up. Just below that is the GP2 Win Mini 2025 or the A1X from Aoki Zoe.
What about you, Russ? Which one are you using most?
I've been using my OLED Switch Lite the most. So I made a video about that a couple weeks ago that I put in a OLED screen, or I had someone put an OLED screen in my Switch Lite. I've been playing that a lot, like just kind of going through and Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, just kind of going back and enjoying those again.
Very cool. Rich, you're liking the Legion Go S? Because that's the one that I spend the most time on these days.
I am enjoying it. I think I was also expecting it after you kind of talked about the big screen and I saw the big screen. I was expecting it to be my main, and I haven't gotten to the point where I can say what my main is because I'm really just using this to review it. But I will say that there's something about it that like I haven't felt like I've dug into it as much as I did with the Ally X. Like the Ally X, like as soon as I had it, it was like, oh yeah, this really changed something for me. But I haven't had that feeling with the Go S, even though it has the bigger screen. I think it might be the battery, right? Like the Ally X, what it really changed for me was like, oh, I can get this fidelity and I can get the battery life, and I don't have to trade any one of those in. And I don't necessarily get that with the Go S.
That's fair, because it has a 50 watt hour or a 55 watt hour battery versus an 80 watt hour battery.
Yeah, 50 watt hour, I believe. And yes, the LAX has 80 watt hour. Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not going to be my next video, but a video that I'm working on is I've decided to build basically a Bazzite console for my TV. And so all the parts are sitting over there on the floor waiting for me to start building, but I've just been way too busy to do it. But that's what I'm working on right now.
Can I ask what GPU you got? Or you want to hold that information? No,
that's not that. It's not that. It's that I don't have my glasses with me and I can't read it from here, and I can't remember because it's all numbers and stuff. It's a AMD 9070. Not an XT though.
Oh, the 9070.
Not an XT.
Okay.
Yeah, the 9070.
Nice. That's
nice.
But I don't know which one, because there's like a billion of those, right?
There's only a few. There's the 9060 XT, 9070, 9070 XT of that generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's a 9070.
They have a 9070 GRE now. So
right. I don't have the GRE one, so it's the 9070.
9070 is nice. 9070 is really nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it's all going to be Linux, not Windows, because I'm tired of waiting for Valve to ship a freaking console. That's what I've been waiting for.
There's no reason. Real quick side note.
Okay.
Do you know what's in the Steam hardware survey as of June?
You mean for like the most common graphics card?
No, something that's new to the Steam hardware survey as of June. It was never there, but it showed up in June.
In June?
Yeah.
Steam Deck?
No, it's been in there for a long time.
Bazzite?
Oh, Bazzite. Yes.
Bazzite.
That's right. I think
Bazzite has
that's right. Yeah, I saw that news.
2.5% Linux share. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock on. Bazzite's awesome.
It's amazing.
It really is.
Yeah. I tend to like Bazzite, but like it's not like I prefer it over like third-party Steam OS. Let me just go to Bazzite because I'm probably gonna have an easier time here.
I prefer it over Steam OS. Using SteamOS on Legion Go S, I think if I were to keep the Legion Go S, I would install Bazzite on here.
Rich, you need to make a video, and the title needs to be "I prefer Bazzite to SteamOS, and I'm tired of pretending I don't." I don't know if it'll fit in the thing, but
it'll come close
there's
enough.
your title for you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of the NerdNest podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you go over to youtube.com/retrogamecore, subscribe there, youtube.com/thefox, and youtube.com/ Fan the Deck. I forgot your name for a second there, buddy. Sorry.
I did too. It's okay.
And if you are listening on your favorite podcast app, maybe it's Apple Podcast, maybe it's Spotify, make sure that you rate the show and go subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you on the next one. Stay rad, everybody.